I would say I really became a lover of the Lake District, a proper lover of it, and a proper sort of enthusiast and a kind of connoisseur. In late 80s, early 90s, I was a music journalist. I was working for the NME, a big selling rock magazine. I mean, I'd known the lakes before that because I come from Wigan, so sometimes me and mates on a Friday night would pile in a van from Wigan, come up the M6, stop in the South Lakes, stay somewhere, a 50p a night campsite like Fama Brasses in Hawkshead. And we would come for the crack, really, what people would say. We'd come to fish. We used to go fishing. We used to go eel fishing. We used to go drinking. We used to hope to try and meet girls. That never happened. But so I thought I knew the Lake District. And then when I started to come up more seriously again in the late 80s, early 90s, I realised that I looked around me at this landscape of mountains, and I didn't know what any of them were. Friends and people would say to me, "What's that?" And I'd say, "I've no idea." And they'd say, "I thought you knew the Lake District." I said, "Well, I know the lakes and I know the pubs, but I don't really know this mountain landscape." So I made a concerted effort to find out more about that. And I think what really helped that and what encouraged that is my job at that time. To a certain extent it still is, but even more so then, was being in the back of coaches and tour buses with rock groups, being on aeroplanes, spending my evenings. It was a very nocturnal lifestyle, so spending my evenings in then smoky clubs and loud music, which is great fun, but it meant that when I had some time off, that's the last thing I wanted to do. I think in the last few years, walking and outdoor stuff has become almost cool. And I wouldn't say quite ultra fashionable, but almost. But not in the early 1990s. People would go to me, "Well, what, have you got like a woolly hat?" And you go, "What, you've got a cagoule?" And I'd say, "Yeah, I have, yeah," and I do. But I think things have slightly changed. And also then it really was what I wanted to do, was a complete break from that very urban, very noisy, crowded kind of lifestyle. And so there was nothing, the entire opposite of that. And the thing I wanted to do was to be somewhere like this. I'm looking at Blencathra now from the top of Acott Hill, or one of the Acott Hills. There's two of them technically, Little and Great. And it's very windy, as you can see and feel. It always is windy around this patch because you've not got a lot of shelter. The wind comes howling straight along Colbeck Common if it's blowing like this today. But from here, you get a real sense of why Blencathra, why the locals call it Saddleback. Like I say, it's a name. I'm with Wainwright on this. I'm not with Wainwright on everything, but I'm with Wainwright on Blencathra being a nicer name than Saddleback. But it's obvious why the locals gave it that name, because you're not getting that grassy sense of behind it from back of Skidder and from Mungrisdale Common. You're not getting the very dramatic glaciated ridges. You've seen it, well, it's like a saddle. It's like an old-fashioned cowboy saddle, or maybe like a pommel horse at the gymnastics, and that's where it gets that name Saddleback from. And it dominates the view from round here. The Dodds over there, the Dodds are majestic and all that, but they've not got that cragginess and that shapeliness that Saddleback has, or Blencathra has, as I prefer. It feels like my mountain in a way, because I've got a place up here where I come for holidays and I come to work. I come to write up here a lot, just by Greystoke Village, by Greystoke Forest. So I often am writing almost literally in the shadow of Blencathra. I can't quite see it from my desk, but I only have to walk a few paces from it to see it. But it's more than that. The massif that you might call Blencathra, including like Bannerdale Crags and Bowscale, that's very close to where I spend a lot of time. So that's one of my local walks, and I love the walk up from past Bull Fell. You walk up the gradual track to Bowscale Tarn and Bowscale Fell. The Tarn's got all kinds of stories associated with it, which I love. Wordsworth said there were two immortal fish in there. They thought it was bottomless, And another thing is, Victorian ladies would go up there. They'd take a pony and trap up there. And it's a kind of cliche to say this, but the Victorians had quite an aesthetic sense that we might have lost. I mean, they did have some funny ideas about what was picturesque and what was frightening, but they would go up there in their bustles and their long skirts and spend some time at Bowscale Town, much more than people do now, and I love it at Bowscale Town. My little dog, her ashes, Muffin's ashes, are up there, because I spent so much time up there with her on Bowscale Fell that she's buried under a cairn up there. And the great thing I love about that walk is you walk and you see Mosedale, the valley, the round house, that intriguing house in the trees, and you see Bowscale itself and Bannerdale Crags, which is a gorgeous walk along that escarpment. And then it takes a while, and you see really why Blencathra is such an amazing mountain, because you see these jagged peaks rising over it in the distance, and that's the kind of sight where you think, I've got to go up there. It lures you on, So, and that's a facet of it I think a lot of people don't know. People will know the front and the ridges, but there's lots of other more hidden nooks and crannies. I mean, even coming over from Mungrisdale Common, which by common consent is the most boring of all the Lake District fells, although I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think it's got a quiet, secretive charm to it. But you come over that way and you do see that grassy shoulder of Blencathra for a long way, and then as you turn at the end you see Sharp Edge as well, and you see Atkinson's Pike, and you think no, there's more. There's a lot of character. There's a lot of hidden, like people. Some people have a lot of hidden depths. Blencathra's got hidden depths.